How are you today?
I'm better.
You better?
And how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. So how was your last week so far?
My last week was very, very trying. Very trying. I almost called you a couple times, but I'm trying to do the things that we've talked about and
Okay, and what exactly happened last week that was so trying for you?
We have a friend that has a little one that's 14 months old, and we were watching him, and he had a febrile seizure on us, and was not breathing, and having seizure-like behavior, and turning blue, and on my watch.
Okay, was anybody with you when that happened?
Yes.
Okay, what happened, do you know what happened after that? Were you with the rest of them? Like, did you call the paramedics and do everything?
My son did. I was trying to help resuscitate.
Okay. And how is he now?
He's fine.
Okay, so he is good now, though, at least?
He was good 2 hours after that happened.
Okay, but at that moment, it was...
I thought we had lost him.
Okay. You said he was 14 months, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I feel, so he's close to you and your family
Very.
as well? Okay. What in this moment, like, it's a trying thing anyways to do that, but what do you think, like, why come to me for this? Like, what do you think do we need to talk about today?
I thought a lot about it. There's several different aspects of it. I've always taught my children not to panic. That in a situation, you do not panic. You take care of the situation, and then you can break down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they did, but I didn't.
But you did not do that.
Right, and that bothered me. Another thing was, it was on my watch. I had him, and that bothered me. And another thing, there was many things. I've also thought about, how could I keep him again if that happens again? I don't know if I could do that, but then I would be denying my family that love for him. That really, the lack of control in that situation. You're dependent on so many other aspects to help, because I didn't have the skills to do what needed to be done. And I know there was way more than that.
Okay, but that's a good little start for us today. Out of every single one that you listed, which one did you feel like you didn't have, like, that situation you're not going to have control in that, but out of the ones you listed, like how you taught your kids not to panic and then you found yourself panicking?
That was the most disturbing.
And why was that the most disturbing for you?
Because I didn't have control. I let my emotions...
Something that you taught your kids not to do.
Right. And I didn't set a good example.
Okay. Well, at some point you had to set a good example because they did, in fact, they did not panic.
Right.
Correct. Okay, so in this what was happening, did your kids talk to you to try to calm you down, or how?
Well, a couple of times they said, Mom, you need to get away. Mom, I'm going to hurt you. You need to move. That kind of thing. But we have a very caring, loving, casual relationship, and I understand what they meant, that I was more in the way at that point than a benefit.
Okay, so in the middle of all this happening, and they told you that, did you realize that your emotions were getting the best of you? And
yeah, but I couldn't do anything.
why couldn't you do anything?
Because he wasn't breathing, and I thought he was dying, and I didn't understand why the paramedics weren't there when they're only 2 miles away from me.
Okay, so a lot was going on in your head that you couldn't have control of.
Right.
But what we're going to try to figure out for you is that you do have control of these situations, just like your kids had control of not panicking in that situation. You understand?
Yes.
Okay, so what in that situation could you have done differently, do you think, in order for you not to have panicked? And I know that's extremely hard, and I know that it's a rough concept.
I don't know if I could, because when anything happens to my children, I know I'm the mom. I have to do that, and I did. But this one was not my child. I mean, it's not that I don't worry about my children. I do worry about my children, but I know that I have to focus and I have to.
They're
to
your
not
responsibility.
panic. Right. And this one was too, but he's not mine. So I felt, I don't know, I just felt that it was, like a sentry on duty, and I didn't do my job, and that kind of bothered me.
Okay. Why don't we go through everything that happened, not physically what had happened, but emotionally what you felt throughout the whole thing? Like, give me a small example of what had happened.
Well, you mean to him and what we were doing?
Yes.
Well, he started shaking.
Okay, let's start there then, okay? During that time he was shaking, I don't want you to say that he was shaking at all. I want you to say exactly what you were feeling.
What's wrong with him and why can't I get him to breathe?
Okay, and then after that?
What's wrong with him and why can't I get him to breathe?
Was that just repeating throughout? Okay, when did the calmness, did the calm hit you later on?
Yeah, when we got to the hospital after they carried him and he was sitting there playing with an iPad, screaming, and I knew he was okay and there was no brain damage.
Okay, so at that moment, what did you feel?
Relief. Happy that he was okay. Extremely proud of my voice. And grateful that he was alive.
Okay, so the exact opposite of what you were feeling, let's say 2 hours earlier, prior?
Half an hour.
Half an hour.
45 minutes, yeah.
Okay, what do you think, like, you also have said that he's not yours, quote unquote, and was the parents of the child there, or?
No.
They were not there?
No.
Were they at the hospital?
Actually, one was in class and one was in New Orleans at the UK game. And I called my daughter and she immediately left class to go get Hunter's mother, and she brought her to the hospital. So I can't rely on my children. I know they're going to do what they need to do because we taught them, and they're just good people.
Okay, so in order for your children to get there, you had to have done that. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have control over having
Helped in that situation.
Yes. So
I guess, yeah, after you say something a million times, it finally gets in, maybe.
Right. So, in that situation, how could you, let me figure, how you talk to your kids and everything, and how you did that, could you do that to yourself, maybe? Like, what would be some of the things you would have to say to yourself over and over and over again, like you did with your children?
I guess they could be my role models, because they really are. I want to be more like Cody. I want to be more calm. Gunner's got ice water in his veins. I want to be more like that.
Okay. So, not comparing yourself to them. Okay, not like, and that's fine to do that, but more as like, well, I'm gonna wake up today and I'm gonna, what could you do to have a little bit of control for throughout the day?
That's a hard question.
I see that you're getting emotional right now. What do you think? What's triggering the emotions?
How precious life is. And how it could be going.
And it's very uncontrollable.
Yes.
Okay, so throughout this, have you learned anything thing deeper than what you thought you were going to?
Um,
Have you learned that any, like, how we have been talking through the counseling and all this stuff? Have you learned that you don't in fact have control over everything, but the
yes,
small
I
things
have.
you do?
I have learned that I saw that in action, and I think that happened for a reason. But ultimately, I did I did know, get 911, getting air care, get those things, get to the right people. So there was good and bad
Was
in
there
the
a
whole.
small amount of control in that situation, do you think?
Yeah, because um I was helping Gunner. We but Gunner did the bulk, but I was helping him. And then I see what you say about that I did have a part in Gunner being as calm and cool and collected as he was. Because it had to come from somewhere.
So you just think that maybe over the years you might have lost that a little bit?
Yes.
Okay, and then what do you think that we can do to get that back?
Well, I have that control with my children. Because I guess it's a motherly instinct. But I've never had anything that severe with a child. So maybe it was a combination. Because my children have never had anything like that happen to them. And I've dealt with my dad, but he's much older. And I've lived with that much longer. This was just all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, bam, in your face.
And that was hard for you with the control thing?
Yeah.
Because you knew with your father that over the years that he was getting sicker.
And any day you could be called and it's to the hospital, you know that. But this was just so unexpected.
And with the unexpected part of it did you find yourself trying to calm yourself down in that situation, or did you find yourself just getting more and more anxious, or?
No, and that, I think that was due to Gunnar and John.
To keep you calm?
Yeah, and I knew that I couldn't totally lose it because I was the adult there.
And you couldn't lose it because you were the adult?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think would have happened differently? Is that the only reason why you composed yourself and not losing it, as you say?
No, and two, I needed to for him.
You had to keep everything
Yeah.
together?
Yeah.
Okay. And then why do you think you needed to do that? Why didn't you let your emotions get the best of you always?
Well, just a prime example, this is a young couple that has a young child, and you try to help them as much as you can, and then you go to the hospital, and she's on her phone and not listening to the doctor and the nurses, and it's like, okay, who needs to be the parent here? So I felt that somebody needed to be, someone needed to.
So responsibility rests on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel, how much pressure do you feel for this? Do you think pressure is a reason for your inability
I'm
for
pretty
control?
good at that. I think life gives you pressures all the time. I'm a pretty flexible person. I try to live that way.
Okay.
Because everybody has pressure. You have pressures all day long. And I'm pretty good at handling those. You give, what God gives you, and you do the best that you can. And you learn from it, hopefully, and you go on. So I'm pretty good at handling that.
Okay, and how you've learned that because you,
I think it's just been years of, like I said, with my dad being sick and just with 4 kids, things happen and life in general and being a teacher, every moment in your life, your class changes. So I think that has helped condition me over the years.
do you think pressure and control go hand in hand?
Um,
What do you think the relationship is exactly?
I see them as 2 different things, 2 different entities. I mean, it's that I have pressure, but I've learned to deal with that. And I think a lot of people put pressure on themselves unnecessarily.
Do you think that you're doing that in this situation?
With the control,
You know, when you're putting pressure on yourself, because you said, how you don't know if you can watch him again without, or have that happen again. That too deals with pressure.
yeah, but it's like when you fall off a horse, you gotta get back on it. So it's something you gotta do. Yeah, it's gonna be really hard the first time he stays all night. I won't sleep, but I know it's the right thing to do.
Okay. So through today's session, we've talked about a lot that's happened with you and how you in fact lost control, but how you regained that control back.
Yes, I did at the hospital.
Okay. So what we're going to work on now is how we're going to work on trying to get that control earlier. If earlier in the sequence of events, as you'd say. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any way that through the week that you could do that, just by little things?
Oh, I hope we don't have a week like we had last week, but
No.
I don't think it'll be anything on that scale. I hope not to. I hope we have a quiet week this week, but I think I can do that.
But you have to start, like I said earlier, you have to start with the littlest things to work into the big things. Okay. Well, I'm glad that your friend's son is doing good, and
Me too.
we're getting there.
I do. I've reflected a lot about what we've talked about. I've learned a lot from this situation, and I've learned that I have to trust I trust in my kids, but I guess I have to trust and let them grow up and be who they're going to be, because they're pretty remarkable, and it's hard to let go, hard to lose that control. So I learned a lot about that.
Okay. Well, instead of quote unquote losing that control, why don't this week? Why don't, instead of you can make a list if you would like the loss of control that you think that you're gonna have with your kids, and do something in order to make you realize it's not so much of a loss.
More like a shared.
Yes, because that's what control is. It doesn't mean that you lost or you gained it. It just means that something else or someone else has it when you don't have as much of it.
I think I can do that. I think that would help me, because my Cody's all my life. So I think I could do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, and I will see you next week.
Thank you. You have a good week.
You too.